Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's IHRP-CA learning event, Connect with us. So before we start into the event proper, just have some housekeeping announcements for you. So all the attendees, your videos have been disabled, as well as your audio, you are put on mute. So if you have any questions at all, just please drop your questions into the Q&A. Myself and my colleagues here today, we will answer your Q&As at the end of the session today. And the slides later on, we will PDF it and put it up onto IHRP Connect for your sharing and for you to take a look at it after today's event is over. All right, so thank you very much for joining us this Wednesday afternoon. My name is Mark. I'm the lead for engagement and marketing here at the Institute for Human Resource Professionals. Right, so we're very happy to have you today because we're actually launching the community for IHRP-CAs, which has been a long time coming. And this is really the where the rubber hits the road, right? So we always tell people, even all our certified professionals, senior professionals, all the HR professionals that have got certified, it's not enough to just get a certification and then just sit on it. The real fun starts when you join a community and you start learning and interacting with each other, networking with other professionals, and that's where the real learning comes across, because that's where you're going to be picking up things that you might not have the opportunity to do so within your own scope of work, within your day-to-day jobs, maybe even within your own networks, right? So this is really where the fun begins for you as well. So we are very excited to launch the IHRP-CA community for you, specifically only for CAs, right? And what we're going to do is that I'm going to show you a little later on how the community looks like and what you can do when you get into the IHRP community. So first off, the topics for this afternoon. I'll be running through first the IHRP Body of Competencies, or as we shorten it, we call it the BOCs, right? We have had some questions and people coming to us saying that the competencies, they don't really understand it at their level yet at the moment, simply because you have not had the opportunity to basically carry out HR functions or HR roles in your jobs. Maybe you're new in your career, or maybe you're currently still studying. So you are not sure how these competencies apply to you in your day-to-day interactions. So I'm going to run through the body competencies with you, as well as to share with you some examples that we have come across during our engagement work with corporate organizations and their HR teams. Then we're going to share with you about how you can accumulate your CPD hours, or continuing professional development hours. This is a requirement for CAs. You need to hit a minimum number of hours before you'll be allowed to proceed to apply for the IHRP-CP certification, right? So don't worry about it. Whenever people see CPD hours, they always ask me, "Oh, Mark, I really don't have the time to attend events and clock these hours and all." Don't worry, I'll show you how easy it is for you to actually gain these CPD hours so that you can proceed to IHRP-CP. And last but not least, I'll be sharing with you the introduction to IHRP Connect, which is our own white label app for the community engagement, as well as for community members to network and to socialize with each other and pick up on our resources. Okay, that sounds good. Remember, if you have any questions at all, please drop them into the Q&A so that we know what you're thinking. No, I'm sorry we couldn't meet up yet physically. We're really looking forward to having a physical meetup session soon with all our CAs, but this is the best we can do at the moment. So please drop us a question in the Q&A, a comment, even if you have anything about the programs thus far, and so that we can do better as well, right? So let's get into it. Now, we're getting to know your BOCs. So the IHRP Body of Competency basically lays out the 13 competencies that we assess all HR professionals against, right? So if you want to get IHRP certified, you must know these 13 competencies, and you must demonstrate your capabilities, your experience in these 13 competencies. So that also means that you need to know what these competencies are talking about, what are they referring to, and basically what are we looking for in each of these competencies, right? If you go to the IHRP website, ihrp.sg, you can actually download a PDF copy of the competencies, right? It's spreads over 33 pages, and it explains each competency in detail. And as well as that, it gives reference points or desired behaviors for each level, so CP and SP level. So you'll notice then that there is no CA level, simply because that these competencies are not expected of CAs at your level. But if you are looking to move into a CP level, you do need to know what the competencies are, because you have to demonstrate them and you have to have a certain amount of experience in each of them, as well as later on when you take the paper B assessment, you do need to answer scenario-based questions based on these competencies. Okay? So let's start off with introducing the IHRP Body of Competencies. So these are the 13 competencies in 3 concentric circles. In the center circle highlighted in blue here, these are our foundational competencies, right? These are the core enablers that help support all HR functional activities. So you got your analytics and insights. This is where you take a look at trends and data to plan for your HR functions. Relationships and communication. So as a HR professional, you are expected to take care of your people in the organization. So you have to have a baseline competency of being able to communicate with people. You have to have technology and operational excellence. So you need to know how to work the tech as well as run operational events and items. And last but not least, labor policies and legislation. This is hugely important. Everyone has taken paper A, right? So you've been through the labor policies and legislation paper. And the fact that we took out one entire paper dedicated to labor policies and legislation shows how important it is, okay? Because quite simply for the fact that if you are going to be practicing HR in Singapore, you need to know the labor law in Singapore, right? Just the same, you don't go to a doctor who doesn't know medical law or who doesn't practice medical law, right? So now you go into the center circle in the middle. These are your functional competencies, right? These are the functions that the HR practitioners, these are their functional roles, and they deliver them through statements and interrelated tasks. You have plan, attract, develop, engage, and separate. And this is what HR professionals do on a day-to-day basis. Not all of them every day, and definitely not all 5 functional competencies together in one HR generalist, right? So some of them are actually specialists in certain areas. So attract, you have talent acquisition specialists, you have employee engagement specialists, and so on and so forth, right? Then you have the outer circle, and these are your mindsets and behaviors. This is how you, as a HR professional, should think and behave when you approach your work, your peers, and any work-related situations, right? So we expect you to be able to display business and financial acumen, and demonstrate change leadership, adopt a future orientation, as well as, most importantly, to uphold professional conduct, because you basically have to walk the talk. So let's just go into details of what each of these competencies are. Please feel free to drop any questions you might have regarding pertaining to these competencies, and like if you want to find out how can it apply to you in your current situation, I'll be happy to answer that at the end of this presentation. So looking at the foundational competencies in the center circle, analytics and insights, like I mentioned earlier, is basically using data analytics to decipher attrition rates, for instance, or to decipher, like saying that the past 2 years, your main source of hiring has come from which platforms, all right, or maybe which job fairs have yielded the best performing candidates. You can draw a relation between the talents that your organization manages to retain and their performance level, and where are the sources of hiring, where do you find these people from, what their background even, right? You're hiring an engineer, but maybe he was trained in a different discipline, but they turn out to be great engineers. So these are the kind of insights that other people wouldn't be able to know, because they are not the ones that actually see they would see the talent when the talent's already in the organization, right? They would take care of the development part. But you as a HR professional, you would know upstream where you found these talents, right? How did you even look for them? Were there any special disruptive technologies or disruptive platforms that you actually searched and found them, right? So that's what the foundational competency of analytics and insights is about. Then you go to relationships and communication, right? This is where you would have to manage conflicts between employees, and you have to give them advice as well. And many of the time, the employees and your team members will come to you for advice as a trusted confidant. and you have to be able to share with them and give them advice on what you think is the best course of action. And you have to be very careful as well not to share what they have shared with you with anyone else, right? So there's a relationship, and this doesn't just mean in your field of work as a HR professional, even yourself personally. You have to develop a competency in managing relationships, both above you, right, and as well as around you, right, and the communications as well that you deliver in both directions. Technology and operational excellence is the ability to use systems or any other systems that enhances your HR functions. Right? So you need to know how to use the HRMS systems. If you are looking through resumes, you can use an ATS, an applicant tracking system, or simply even going to like LinkedIn and posting a job ad there and knowing how your job ad is performing vis-a-vis other organizations looking for the same role for your organization as well, right? So that's basically your technology and operational excellence that you have to develop. Labor policy and legislation, I've already spoken at length previously. The reason why we wanted to test you is not only just that you know the law of the land, it's also to ensure that what you are doing, what your organization is doing, you are ensuring compliance to HR policies and governance, right? And some CAs have actually said or asked us that, no, actually right now in my role, I'm quite junior, so I don't have much influence in terms of how things are run and all. That should not stop you from speaking up when you feel that the HR policies and the governance actually goes against labor policies and legislation here in Singapore, right? So that's a fine line you have to balance. So when I say that, you can already see that that's where your foundational competency of relationship and communication comes in, right? So you want to communicate bad news or you want to communicate not so good news to your higher ups because they are flouting labor policies. You have to be able to manage that relationship and that communication. Okay? Now, let's move on to the functional competency. So in the center circle, there's the 5 functional competencies that HR do in their day-to-day work. Plan. This is where we talk about HR activities related to manpower, resource planning, financial budgeting, as well as long-term strategic workforce planning. So what a HR professional does is basically see where the business is going, and then recognize where the gaps in the talent pool within the organization, in the skills gaps. Do we have the people to do it? Do we have the people with the skill set to do what we need for the organization to continue thriving? And if you don't, can we upskill people internally, or do we have to get more talent in? And at what cost, what level, how do they fit into the teams? And also this is all about the planning about your manpower and the job and the skills match for the jobs that they are doing, right? So that's the competency of plan. Attract. So now you plan to basically hire new people in. Attract deals with how are you going to find these people, right? Sourcing, selecting, and then you do the interview and you onboard them. They might be in hot demand. So some of the really skilled talents out there, they can walk into any organization in the world, right? So then you are actually competing against other organizations in terms of not just the compensation benefits, but also the role and the development opportunities for these talents. So this is where you have to go out and basically fight for that talent to convince them to join your organization. And we have seen some examples of what I would say is a talent sourcing in unusual or complementary verticals, right? So we had this organization where they are in the shipping business, right? So they didn't, they are in a data technology analytics field, right? And they needed someone to be able to crunch the numbers for a firm, one of their customers from the shipping industry. And they couldn't find enough people with the background in shipping, right? But these people, the talents they applied were all very skilled in data analytics and all. So what this organization did actually is that they found someone who was recently retrenched from a shipping firm, right? He was like 50 plus, and he wasn't very good with data, but he had huge experience in shipping. And what they did is they employed him, and then they sent him for data analytics courses. Right, so because data analytics is a skill that they could pick up, but his experience in shipping was something that nobody else had. So they instead of searching for data analytics specialists, they actually found someone who was a shipping specialist, and then they trained him in data analytics, and then it was the best of both worlds, right? So that's what we're talking about in the competency of attract. Are you able to identify qualified people from maybe an unusual background, unusual pool that will give you a leg up in hiring and sourcing the best talent? If you go on to develop, so you get them in already, right? Now you get the talent in, you've planned well, you've attracted them, they've joined in, now you develop them. There's nobody likes to stay stagnant where they are within the organization. So this is where you have to develop their career development, learning and development plans. You have to manage their performance, and manage what they want to do as well as their career aspirations. And obviously, if you do that well, they're going to move up, right? They're gonna get promoted and all. So you need to plan for succession planning as well. You need to know if this gentleman that I brought in, within 2 years, his career pathway, he's going to move up into a senior manager role. Who's going to take over from him? Because it's not just about filling a role, right? It's that if he moves out into a senior manager role, but nobody fills up his role, he's going to have to do the dual roles, right? He has to still do the work that he was doing as a manager, even though he's a senior manager, right? So that's the competency for development. And then there's also the engagement, right? So you're developing them in career order, but how are you taking care of them as a person, right? So as a HR professional, you are the people taking care of the people, and you have to speak to them as people, right? As individuals, you need to speak to them about their compensation and benefits, whether it's suited to their personal needs, whether benefits actually matter. You hear of companies giving people things like flexi benefits, days off, and flexible hours and all. But the reality of it is that it doesn't fit with the company culture, right? You give them the days off, but their bosses still contact them at outside office hours, so it really doesn't matter at all, right? So and then you have to deal with cultural management as well. Now every organization is a global organization. You're going to have people from different corners of the world, different languages, different cultural backgrounds, and that's going to create friction, right, within the organization. And then the last functional competency is separation. So sometimes separations are voluntary, right? They are the retirement, or they are leaving. And some you have involuntary dismissals, redundancies. Recently, we hear of a lot of retrenchment exercises, termination due to performance and all. So this is a very delicate part. And you can see also when I'm talking about this, some alarm bells should be going off in your head, because you can think of all the foundational competencies that you could use, right? The relationship communication is very important. The labor policies and legislation is going to be very important now, because if you want to terminate someone, you need to know whether you have the law that's backing you up, that you can give them a proper dismissal, right? Even for retrenchment. So you can see already that just talking about 2 layers of competencies, they are competencies that are interdependent on each other. Now we go to the last circle, which are the mindsets and behaviors, and that's the 4 of them. So the business and financial acumen. More and more, HR professionals are not just expected to run functional HR admin or HR operationals. What we need is a HR that's able to drive business outcome by adding value through your HR solutions, right? So your HR duties have to be tied into a business purpose and impact on an outcome. So if we go back to some of my examples earlier, I shared, if you are sourcing for talent, in a different field, like if you're looking for someone who's retrenched from the shipping industry and bring him on board to train him, that might be potentially a lower business cost to you than if you were to be competing with the top end data analytics talents, right? For instance. So that's one way that HR can show what your HR activities actually delivers to the business bottom line and the top line, right? Because it's no longer enough to say that, oh, HR, we organize family day, we do D&D, we run polls to ask parcel surveys and all that. That doesn't actually relate directly. That's great for employee engagement in some cases, but it doesn't directly showcase the financials or the business impact that he has. So as a HR professional, this is where you need to move forward to. This is the mindset you need to develop. You need to be thinking in everything that you do, how does it affect the business, whether the purpose, the impact, or the mission of the business, right? Then you have to demonstrate change leadership. And change leadership in this instance, when we talk about leadership, does not imply that you need to be a formal role or a management position, right? So we go back to your engagement and your relationships and communications, right? When you want to change, you have to be able to influence people to change. And one of the easiest, most common um, uh, common examples we see is that HR always reminds people, please use up your training hours, please go and upskill yourself, right? And that's a very common thing in a lot of organizations. I know HR is always imploring people to go and upskill themselves. So what about yourself? You're a HR professional and you want people to change by going for more upskilling courses, then why are you as a HR professional, are you actually doing it? Are you actually upskilling yourself and impacting the change, right? So that's the change leadership, right? And then you have to adopt a future orientation. This is tied in a bit to the business acumen and all. You need to know the current issues that are facing not just your organization, but your sector, even in your role, your team, other teams as well. And you know about your competitors in the sector, at national level, what are the issues that are going to impact your organization. Recently, there was a huge uproar about the requirements for work passes, right? And then how does it impact your business, right? So if the work passes now, they're asking you, telling you that you want to employ a foreign talent, you need to pay more. How's that going to impact your workforce planning? How would that impact your bottom line, your HR budget, right? Your manpower budget for all that. So that's where you have to adopt a future orientation to understand what's coming so that you can deal with it and prepare the ground for the future. And last but not least, as a HR professional, you must uphold professional conduct. You must walk the talk, right? You need to conduct yourself with integrity. You need to remain professional and objective because people are going to come to you in confidence. They're going to speak to you and share with you sensitive and confidential information, both at an individual level. A very, very simple example is that job applicants are going to be sharing with you their last drawn salary. They're going to share with you personal details like their personal relationships or their next of kin, their phone numbers, and all that. And all this is in your control, and you have all this data, right? This information. At an organizational level, you will know things like people's performance level, whether they're going to be benchmarked for a promotion, whether they're going to be sent for a performance improvement program, and things like this. So those are things that you have to deal with confidentially and not share it around with people and family and friends, in your boyfriends, girlfriends, and all that, right? So you have to uphold professional conduct and conduct yourself in integrity at all times, right? So these are the 13 competencies. I hope that I've given you more insights on them. If you have any further questions, and you want to clarify on any of the competencies, please feel free to drop a message in the Q&A, right? Now, you know the competencies. So what we're going to do now is to help you accumulate your CPD hours. As an IHRP-CA, you need to acquire 50 CPD hours over 2 years in order to progress to the IHRP CP level. So what you can do firstly is on IHRP Connect, which I'll share with you after this. You can earn CPD hours by earning 150 points. So every 150 points you earn in Connect, you get your CPD hours. So how do you earn the points? Is you can share a thought, ask a question, add a text or comment, respond to a poll, read resources, complete quizzes, and all. And you actually check your points on the leaderboard within your community. Right? So you'll be able to track yourself. We do have a maximum cap of 60 hours for 3 years. That's over at the CP and SP level. So it's actually prorated back down to CA level. So for over 2 years, you can maximum get about only like 40 hours on IHRP Connect. The rest of it, you actually do have to earn it from other sources. All right. There are other ways as well to earn CPD hours. Like today, you're attending this webinar. Congratulations, you're going to earn CPD hours for this as well. Formal and structured learning. So if you attend workshops, you partake in a mentoring program, and you go to conferences, with other webinars, IHRP events, and all. This is where you can earn CPD Hours through formal events, and you have informal learning events, right? So you have self-studies, online training and all. So what you're going to do, we are still working on the piece online where you can submit your CPD activities, and then we can clock it for you. But in the meantime, please continue to track your own CPD hours from the events, from the webinars, and anything else that you are doing during your day-to-day work, all right? Now, I'm very excited then to move on finally to the IHRP Connect. We have created the IHRP Certified Associates community on IHRP Connect. Right? So what I'll be sharing with you now is how do you get onto Connect, and also what you can see on it. But most importantly, the reason why we started IHRP Connect, and we are the first professional body in Singapore that really had our own white label app for our community, simply because we felt that the strongest learning comes from cross-sectoral learning, comes from peer sharing, right? So you think about the last time where you actually studied, I mean, some of you might have just recently graduated, right? But when you studied, and sometimes the learning just doesn't break through. You can read hours and hours of text, watch videos on, but when you speak to someone else, speak to your peer about it, you share your thoughts with each other, and suddenly a light goes off because you suddenly understand it, or understand the issue at a human level, because someone that you trust and you understand has the same problem, and they are sharing with you their point of view on that problem, and voila, then you suddenly it all fits and all clicks, right? So that is why we created the IHRP Connect for our community members. So in our CP and SP community, it's very vibrant. There are like a few thousand comments and 1,000 over discussion threads going on at the moment, and people actually the number one benefit, and we ran a poll recently, the one benefit of getting certified was because they had access to qualified community, because trusted the people in the community to give them good advice and to give them good learning and sharing as well. Right, so this is why we set up IHRP Connect, and we hope that you find it useful as well for your own professional development. Now, how do you log into IHRP Connect? Using your web browser. So you go to your web browser, launch your browser, you go to connect.ihrp.sg. You can do this concurrently while I'm talking about it. You should have received a welcome email already from our certified associate mailbox, right? Use your registered email address, right? And then the default password is IHRP-CA 2020. This is the first time you're logging in, and then please remember to change your password. Right? That goes without saying. Okay? Now, if you're using the app, you can actually download the app from the Play Store or App Store and look for IHRP, right? And then install IHRP Connect app into your phone. And what you should see then is this front page, right? This is the app's front page. Use your same thing. Use your registered email address and use the default password IHRP-CA 2020. Again, please change the password once you log in for the first time. All right. Okay, so once you get in there, what can you do on IHRP Connect? You can go to the different communities, like I mentioned earlier. You can take a look around at the, you are obviously in the IHRP Certified Associate community, but you can also take a look at your read-only access to look at the other communities available. You can tap on the resources, read the resources that we have in there for you, for the different HR areas, HR related news, videos, webinars, and all sorts of other resources that will help you understand HR better and what's happening in the world of HR. You can join get-togethers. So we do have from time to time some community leaders who arrange some get-togethers within the community. So it's not IHRP-led, it's community-led. So if anyone in the community wants to just gather a group of CAs to talk about it, have a webinar, have drinks over a webinar, and speak about what you're doing right now, any issues you're facing at work, please just go ahead and do that, right? And then, of course, you have the material curated just for you. All right. So, I mean, let's just go with a live demo. This will be easier for everyone to see what we are talking about. And don't forget, you can also, if you have the app already, or you're opening your web browser right now on your laptop, you can log in as well. And you can go in and take a look live as well. So let me just show you how it looks like. Right, So can everyone see the IHRP Connect app? All right, so here you will see all the available communities. So this is my personal login. So as the head of engagement and marketing, I have access to all 12 communities within IHRP. So these are all the 12 communities. They are known as communities of practice, right? Because the communities of practice is where basically we break them up into the future-ready HR skills that CPs and SPs have to develop themselves in. So you have your business and finance acumen community, you have your engagement communications, HR tech, you have to generate all IHRP community in there. And we recently launched the COVID-19 resources community as well. This was because in response to COVID-19, when circuit breaker took off and all, in April, we launched the COVID-19 resources community of practice. And to date, that's our largest COP, community of practice. We have more than 300 resources collated for HR professionals to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's just go straight into the IHRP-CA community. This is what you'll be looking at. Once you're in the community, you will see the post from our admin right there. This was a recording of our first ever IHRP-CA webinar, where we had our IHRP Master Professional, Ms. Renata from SAP, sharing about the evolution of HR professionals. All right, so you have, this is where all the posts are. So it's a little bit quiet at the moment because we've just recently launched it. But please feel free to go in there and post your thought by clicking on the red plus button, right? And this is where we will be able to see your posts and questions and partake on and comment on them, right? So don't forget, you can earn CPD hours by posting thoughts and questions and all, right? So not just this page, not just the questions and all, you can go to the materials. And this was what I was talking to about earlier, about the resources that you can have. So this is the IHRP Connect 101, about the things that you can do. So you can read all these resources. We have the body of competency introductions that you can go as well and read about them in depth. So the learning resources for COVID, we've actually ported them over out of the COVID-19 COP here. And you can take a look. So for instance, we've broken them down into different areas, the advisories, people, business, processes, and policies. So if you go to business people, you have employee safety, employee well-being. And even then, when you double click into them, right, you have specific links to different websites from our partners, different resources from our partners for you to engage with and to learn about, right? So these are the materials page. If you go down, then you have the stories page. So we don't have the stories at the moment, but this is where you can put up stories to share about what you are doing in your area. You can see the people in the community. You can search for your friends and any of them who are already in here, connect to them and all. And please, on this note, if you know of any friends who are already CA certified and they do not know of this because they didn't sign up for today's webinar and all, please share with them, let them know and invite them into the community as well. Ask them to log in. If they have any issues, just contact us if they can't log in, right? We will be able to assist them, right? So please invite and tell all your friends about it, so the community is more vibrant, it's more fun with friends after all, right? As this is the leaderboard where you can see your points, right? So we have Zixun and Brian who are leading the leaderboard at the moment. That's me with 240 points. I have no idea how I scored that many so far. But yeah, you can already see, right? I've got 240 points. So 150 is equivalent to 1 CPD hour. I've already got 1 CPD hour and more there, right? So please just go in and take a look and help yourselves. In there, you have the about page as well to tell you about what this community is doing. All right. So I hope that you have fun with the IHRP Connect community. Please engage with us and let us know what you think about it. We're going to run the live poll now on Zoom. Okay, we want to know what you want to see in the IHRP-CA community. Could be anything. You have the options out there already, but if you have any other ideas that you have, again, that's the power of community. That's the whole reason why we started IHRP Connect, is we want to learn from you as well, because we are not the ones that are going through what you are going through. We are just the ones supporting you in your professional development. And so we want to be able to see the poll. right? So we want to know what you want to see on the community, so that we'll be able to get better resources and more engaging items in the community for you, right? So there you have it. So you do want video content, community sharings, discussion forums on HR issues, materials. So please, if you have anything, other ideas, you can put them in the Q&A as well, right? So we're going to run the polling for just a couple more. We have another 9 people to drop in. Material and content on up and coming HR trends. We can do that. So just to address that point, as I can see that that's the most popular right now, the materials and content on up and coming HR trends. So just to give you a taster of what to expect when you become a CP, a certified professional, what we have is that we have the future ready HR skills that we have identified. We've worked with more than 400 industry leaders, government officials, business leaders, HR gurus, and all, to identify 9 HR skills that are in demand for HR professionals in the future. And we're not just talking about comm and band, learning and development anymore. That's all already being done today. We are looking at in the future. So we are going to be talking about things like HR technology, people analytics, employee experience. And note that we don't say employee engagement anymore. No, engaging them is easy, but customizing and creating a positive employee experience is the future, right? And think of it yourself as a HR professional, right? You're an employee as well. What kind of experience do you want the organization to give you, right? And we're going to have other things like business acumen, again, comes up again and again. Business and finance acumen is a very key future HR skills that you need to know. So when we talk about up and coming HR trends and materials and contents, we already have those. What we might need to do is we might have to try to contextualize it a bit for the CA community, so that you can quickly absorb it and you can know how to live it out in your current roles and what you're doing. All right. So that's all for the presentation today. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm just opening to the floor now for the Q&A. Right, so I'm going to stop my screen sharing and I'm going to go over to the Q&A. Okay, so we have a question from Lisa. She's asking, how do you record your CPD hours? When we talk about technology and operational excellence, sometimes we do have to revert back to the tried and tested, which is the Excel format. So in an Excel spreadsheet, you can just record the events you have attended, how long were the event for, so the title of the event, the month and year of the event, as well as the number of hours you clock for the event, and keep a copy of the reference of, like, say, your attendance or your confirmation of that you attended the event as proof of attendance. Keep all that personally first on your own files and your own drive. We are working on a segment within our system which will allow you to log in and clock these CPD hours events, so that you know how many hours you have clocked yet. So once that is ready, please rest assured we will be sharing that with you as well, so that you can log in to know about that. Okay, that's great. So I hope you answered your question, Lisa. Otherwise, please feel free to drop in another question. So there is some other questions in the chat. I'm going to refer to them now. Jessica was asking, you're not currently in a HR role doing a HR function. Is this a requirement for IHRP-CP certification? Actually, we do need you to have a minimum of 2 years working experience in HR before you're able to apply for CP. So if you could share more with us privately if you need to, Jessica, let us know what are you doing at the moment. Because we do know that there are certain roles in organizations where HR is just one of your portfolios, and you take care of, like, say, office matters, office operations as well. But if you are able to develop yourself in the HR functions during this role as well, you will be able to apply for CP as well. So please contact us directly for that, right? Oh, hi, Wan Ling. Yes. How do we progress to CP? Is it once we hit 50 hours or only after 2 years? That's a very good question. All right, so the 50 hours, really what we are looking for is that we're not looking, let's just move away from the very typical Singapore education system mindset of like hitting the scores and moving onwards. What we are looking for is the 50 hours. I didn't mention it earlier because we are only just recently launched community. We didn't want to set too many rules and regulations. But what we are looking for is really your 50 hours. Does it include a widespread of events covering different competencies? So the first webinar we ran really where our master professional Renata shared on the evolution of HR professional, right, covered a few competencies in terms of development, in terms of attraction, in terms of planning, you know, in terms of everything in the mindsets and behaviors. So what we want to see when you clock the 50 hours is really, have you managed to expose yourself to as many competencies as possible? We're not going to say that you have to like go attend enough events and, you know, consume enough resources online on IHRP Connect. No, that covers all 13, but we do want to see a certain spread, so you don't just clock 50 hours simply on just one IHRP competency. And there's a real reason for this, is because we need you to be able to be exposed to the different competencies, so that when you go and take paper paper B for CP, right, you are able to answer the questions. Because if you don't know the competencies, you're not going to be able to answer the questions in paper B. Similarly, when you do CP, you need to do what we call a competency demonstration, where you have to write your experience in the various competencies, you know, and share with us what are the experiences that you had in the competency, right? So, for instance, if I say a competency of labor regulations, labor law, right, and labor legislations, what's your experience with that? Have you tapped on it? Have you used it? Who were the stakeholders involved in that situation that you encountered? What was the action you took that demonstrated your use of labor legislation, and what was the end result, right? So if you don't know that a competency, right, and you can't basically flesh it out in your day-to-day work, right? Now the 2 years is just an indicative. I know of some of you who are already in HR roles, and you might be already working in HR and you are gaining experience as a HR professional. So anytime you hit 2 years of working HR experience, right, check back in with us. Let us ensure that you have the 50 hours and you are ready to take the IHRP-CP certification. Okay? Oh, hi, Ruhan. So Ruhan is asking if you have a diploma or degree in HR. So I'm hoping you are saying that you have both a diploma and degree in HR. No, and so unfortunately, it will not count to the 50 hours. And let me explain to you why, right, before you start hitting your laptop. Okay, so whatever you did in school and diploma and degree in HR that you've attained, congratulations. That is knowledge. That is what you have learned in HR theory. That's what you learn in HR knowledge. You know, now what we want doing in the 50 CPD hours is that we want you to be able to live out the competencies, right? To understand it in the real world. So knowledge plus application of the competencies. And that's what we are looking for later on. That's the requirement, right? That I answered the previous question about. The requirement for you to demonstrate your application of the competencies in a real life situation at work, right? So that's why we can use your diploma and degree in HR for the 50 hours. The good news for that is that you are recent graduates, right? So your knowledge of your HR diploma and degree is still fresh. So when you apply that knowledge, and also what's the practical world is happening in terms of the competencies, you can put 2 and 2 together. So that's a stronger correlation to that. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Ruhan. Hi, Ailida. So after completing the CA program, right, when will be a good time to take up the CP program? So the CA program really is because we need to incubate you, to introduce you to the competencies and all, you know, so that you can understand better the competencies, because you might not have had the exposure in the real world in your work to the competencies. And so that's why we have a CA program. Now the CP itself, there is no program to speak of. It is just an assessment per se. So, you know, if you have any colleagues or friends who are already more than 2 years in HR And if they apply for CP, it's just straight away apply, submit all the relevant documents, pay, and then go and take the assessment. And that's it. There's no program per se for them to go through, right? That said, after you clock your 50 CPD hours and you have in 2 years of working HR experience, you can apply for CP assessment anytime, right? And go ahead and take the CP, and hopefully you actually you are pretty clear that you will pass it, and then you become IHRP CP, and that's where you go into IHRP Connect. All the other communities of practice opens up for you, and you can partake in them, and then you can learn the future ready HR skills as well. Right. The deadline for completing a CP assessment is that in the CA program, we give you 3 years, because if you're working in HR outside, 3 years will give you more than enough HR experience. So you have 3 years for you to at least attempt the IHRP CP assessment once. All right. So you have 3 years for that, but we don't foresee anyone taking the full 3 years for this. Okay, Vivian is asking that after 50 hours and 2 years, you just take paper A, or just take paper B, or do you need to take paper A again with paper B? To everyone, let me ask you, do you guys want to take paper A again? I didn't think so, right? No, at the moment, paper A validity does not have an expiry date, because we tested you on all the labor legislations of the day already, right? So until MOM comes out with some huge changes to the labor legislations, otherwise you don't have to take paper A ever again. All right. Paper B, yes. So you just have to take paper B. Paper B is basically a multiple choice questions based on scenarios that are asking you about your understanding of the body of competencies, and then you just choose the correct multiple choice answer for it. Right? It's very straightforward. Right. So I hope that sets your mind at ease, Vivian. Angeline. Earlier question about the IHRP staff replied me that my current specialist dip graduate will come be on now. Please confirm. Current specialist dip. So you're taking a specialist dip at the moment while you're CA. Yeah, so that actually will qualify towards your CPD hours. But that being said again, there's this thing about the quantity and quality, right? So your CPD hours, the quantity is met, but the quality of the of your learning, right, is of our primary concern. Have you had enough exposure to the 13 competencies in order to sufficiently prepare you for CP certification later on in paper B, and as well as in the experience assessment? Okay, so please feel free to let us know what you're doing at the moment, Angeline, and just contact us directly. We can help you with your CPD, as well as maybe your specialist tip or whatever you're doing in your HR role as well. All right, thank you. So we've got maybe about 5 minutes more. If anyone has any last questions. Hi, Wendy. You mentioned you just completed HRM at NYP, so that's a diploma level. This will not count to CPD hours. So similar to the question earlier, I think from Rehan. Basically, what we are saying is that your diplomas and your degree is the HR knowledge that you have gained from now on. And to clock CPD hours is really about exposing yourself to the different areas of the IHRP competency in a real world practical situation. So if you take a look at the video recording on IHRP Connect for Renata's webinar that we ran in June, that's actually the kind of learning and real world practical experience that we need you to expose yourself to in order to clock the CPD hours. So the CPD hours really, the purpose of them is to drive you to go and engage with the competencies in a real world setting. Okay. I just check if the IHRP Connect app will reflect our CPD hours. No, the app itself does not reflect the CPD hours. The CPD hours will be reflected in our IHRP system, which we are currently working on. So once that module is up, you can actually log into our IHRP system, right, and you can clock in all your hours. So think of it this way, right? Your IHRP Connect app is like your LinkedIn, right? It's a social media for HR professionals that you go in and you partake and you earn, it's gamification, you earn points and scoring and all. And then the IHRP CPD hours and all your IHRP profile is stored on an IHRP system, where you have to log into IHRP system to update your CPD hours. That's where all the basic admin and all your applications are stored at. Right, so that's how you should see the two things. So IHRP app is a social media front end app for networking. Okay. Let's see. Yes, excellent. Thank you very much, Hafiza. Right. Yes, we have run the skills framework workshops for certified associates now. So for those of you who are not familiar what a skills framework is, please look out for our future emails and future workshops because this is a must attend, especially for new HR professionals. So what this does is that skills framework is a national level initiative by Skills Future Singapore, SSG, right? So what it does is that there are 34 different frameworks for 34 different sectors. For each sector's skills framework, they basically lay out the sector outlook, right, for that sector. So we're talking about HR at the moment, right? So HR sector. So HR sector in the 5 to 10 years time, how is the sector going to look like? What are business leaders asking for from HR professionals? What you should be prepared for. Then it's going to tell you your career pathway as a HR professional. So you map it out, right, for the different verticals in common bear, learning development, talent attraction, and all. You start out at a certain level. How do you move up? How do you move across? And how do you eventually reach a CHRO level? Right. So that is a framework for your career pathway. Then, with that career pathway, we actually the skills framework actually then breaks it down to different job roles, right? The different job roles and occupations, and it breaks it out further into the skills, the technical skills and the generic skills needed for each job role, and the critical work functions and the key tasks that each role would do. So one skills framework, right, for HR, for instance, runs into a few hundred pages, right? And it's a freely referable skills framework. If you go to SSG's website, if you go to IHRP website as well, you can do that, right? You can actually download the entire skills framework for your sector, right? And you can copy and paste it, right, for your usage for talent acquisition purposes, talent development, performance management, because all the key tasks, all the critical work functions, and the levels of the skills that are needed to do those job roles are all listed in there already, right? So that's what the skills framework actually does. Right? So for those of you who have not attended the skills framework workshop, please go and attend them. All right. We are not making it compulsory, but we would definitely strongly encourage you to attend, because when you're starting out in HR, it's important for you to know a roadmap. It's basically like a roadmap for you to tell you this is how the lay of the land is, and these are the different roles. If you want to move into this HR talent acquisition manager role, these are the skills you need to develop, and these are the levels you need to do it at, right? Is it counted as CPD hours? Of course it is, right? So if you attend a workshop, it's going to be counted in your CPD hours as well. So please go ahead and look out for the emails from us and attend the workshops. Yes, Sarayana, yes, there will be another skills framework we intend to run every month. So please keep a lookout for that. If you don't receive an email or you're unable to see it, please contact us on our emails, all right? And so, yes, one thing, don't worry about asking so many questions. That's the reason why we have a Q&A session as well. We booked the Zoom session at 5:30. So if you like to, you can stick around and talk to us. We just launched the skills badge. Does it apply to CAs? Yes, it does. At the moment, when we set up the CA, we actually have a requirement as a CA to earn a minimum of 1 skills badge before you can proceed. But I haven't shared that yet because we're still working out the technicalities of it, right? And the reason why we need you to earn a skills badge is because the IHRP certification for CP and SP, right? If you want to measure it, it's something akin to GCO levels, right? So if you're a HR professional, right, a GCO level for your HR professional, everybody needs to attain that minimum level of certification. Now, the skills badge are what's going to make you stand out. Now, the skills badge then are like your specializations, right? So you are a IHRP certified professional, but in which field, right? You are a certified professional because you manage to answer all 13 competencies, but are you an expert in any of them? Now, these are where the skills badges are going to identify your expertise. So we have 4 skills badges already launched. We have another 5 more to be launched later in the year. So there'll be 9 skills badges for you to aim for. We are still working out the technicalities of how we're going to apply it to CA, and because you do need to have a real world business project that you need to do in order to earn the skills badge. The good news is that once you earn a skills badge, it actually waives off certain components of your competency write-up, right? So the 13 competencies later on, where you have to write up your experience in order to get CP. If you get a skills badge, we can waive off some of the competencies that actually has been demonstrated in the skills badge. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. We will be sharing more details of this as and when the skills badges are fully launched. Right. Okay, there are no more questions, so thank you very much. We've come to the end of the webinar. Please remember that if you would like to contact us as well, we do have our contact details right here. All right, and of course, if you go to the IHRP Connect community, just drop a message in there. You know, our community manager Gloria, she's on there 24/7. I hope, right? And she will answer your questions, and she'll answer your questions, and she'll be in touch with you on any of your queries as well. For future events, we are exploring the possibility that we will open registration only on IHRP Connect. So please make sure that you're on IHRP Connect. Thank you very much again, everyone. And we hope to see you on IHRP Connect very soon. All right. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.